Good day. This is Streetscape Characterization presentation of the Las Reyes Street by Group 7 of 201. Our group consists of the Gala Anthony, Hapin Mariel, LLOYD Jurist, MANAOG LLOYD, Patricia San Diego, and Neil Velasco. Streetscape characterization is defined as a spatial arrangement on visual appearance of built and landscape features when viewed from the street. Architects need to pay close attention to external factors, namely climate, landscape, and the culture of the people who use this area. With this quote, the student's role is to analyze and characterize the streetscape of the Las Reyes Street based on physical characteristics including building forms, pedestrian access, greeneries, and utilities. The students will also be providing an in-depth SWOT analysis and will propose their recommendation on how the Las Reyes Street can be further improved. And given the current situation and pandemic today, the students will gather data through the internet. The students will gather quantitative and qualitative data through the means of observation in the websites such as Google Earth, Google Street View, and Project Noah. They will also use these websites as a guide and reference in knowing what the site looks like in certain aspects like building forms and profiles, transport and mobility, utility systems, pedestrian access, and greeneries. The students also use the book Form, Space, and Order by Francis D.K. Ching. For the site description, the site is located in Sampaloc, Manila 1008 Metro Manila. The site is near one of the most known universities in the Philippines and is located in the southwest of University of Santo Tomas. The De Las Reyes Street is a roadway that intersects multiple roads being the Eloisa Street, Tolentino Roads, Picampa, Adelina, and etc. The De Las Reyes Street is accessible through the means of vehicular transportation like cars, bikes, and walking. The De Las Reyes Street is known to be one of the most busiest streets around UST. This may be because when walking on Padre Novel Street going to De Las Reyes Street, you will be greeted by landmarks like Angkong on the left side and various commercial properties like Meet Up, WPJ Laundry, and D-Bricks on the right side. Moving on, the next slides are the diagrams we have made that will be discussed further. The building classifications shown here are the food retail, commercial areas, shop, dormitories, residential areas, sari-sari stores, and the road accompanied by the building panoramas. Next will be the sun path and the shadows at the building projects in different times of the day, accompanied by shots taken during the pandemic. As you can see, there are shadows in the morning area and less shadows taken in the afternoon. These shots were taken by our classmates, Angela and Nicola. The next diagram is the various building materials visible in the exterior facade of the building. We also provided diagrams for sidewalk, road dimensions, availability of parking areas, and the road network analysis. Greeneries and flood hazard were also taken into consideration. So as you can see here, the green dots represent the bushes and the light green dots represent the trees present in the road. The diagram below, on the other hand, shows the flooding hazard with orange being medium and the yellow area being low. Next will be the street light post and electrical post diagrams. This diagram shows all the electrical posts present in the area as well as the street light posts that give light to pedestrians when walking at night. The utility systems were also marked, which will all be explained by the next speakers. For the noise pollution, a noise diagram was made that shows the noisiest areas during different times of the day through personal experience and images. Vehicles are often noisy around the P. Novel Street in the early morning because of the rush hour. Students and vehicles gather around this area because the University of Santo Tomas is located beside P. Novel Street. The streets are also noisy at night due to vehicles, eateries, and various activities that happen only at nighttime. And these are some images that support our claim. So these are images that were taken from Google Earth in the morning time, and these images were taken from Google that shows the different activities that happen during the night. So Lloyd Manao will now present the user profile.
Now for the user profile. There are a lot of users present in the site, namely the students and the faculty members of the university, the families of different residential areas, landlords, business owners, and service staff. Also, security guards, firefighters, and barangay officials are present. Maintenance personnel can also be found. So the site consists of three sectors of its users. It's the primary, secondary users, and the tertiary users. So the primary users are the customers and students. This is mainly because of the large quantity of the site accommodates. Next is the secondary users, which are the residents, retailers, and sellers. This mainly provides services for the primary users, such as eateries and other more establishments. Lastly, the tertiary users, maintenance staff and service staff. This mainly focuses on the preservation of the De Las Reyes Street. There are dormitories, condominiums, and residential areas present in the vicinity, so some students can travel by foot easily. The street is mainly used by pedestrians and a minimal number of vehicles.
For the building forms and profiles, these are the shades during different times of the day in De Las Reyes Street. During the morning, noon, the afternoon. Building types in this street include residential, commercial, and mixed-use buildings. Majority of the buildings in De Las Reyes Street have rectilinear forms. The shapes commonly seen are squares and rectangles. The buildings in De Las Reyes Street have common edges that are straight and defined because of the contrasting elements, such as the colors and textures. Certain buildings also have curvilinear features. Most of the main forms are subtractive forms of rectangular prisms. Symmetry can also be observed in almost every structure. There are some buildings with neutral and subdued shades, while others are vibrant and colorful. Buildings either have one solid color or have a combination of two or more colors. Variety of textures on the facades are achieved because of the building materials used. The main materials mostly seen are concrete and galvanized iron sheet. Other buildings also used glass and bricks. The buildings range from 1 to 8 floors. Almost all of the buildings have human scales, while a few have a monumental scale. Most of the buildings have picture and double casement windows. In a few buildings, the windows are grilled and there are arched moldings and ornate designs above the windows in the wall. There are also houses that have capiz windows. For residential buildings, wooden doors are common. In some, there are also small gates. For mixed-use buildings, the commercial space is usually on the ground floor, so accordion-type doors were used. Other stores use glass doors accompanied with a roll-up door. A sari-sari store is often distinguished by the windows or openings with grills that have products displayed. Other stores are also identified by the tables and chairs outside and an open room. Some houses are typical Filipino houses. It is simple and it is made with concrete and galvanized iron sheets. Certain houses also have capiz windows. The repetitive features of balconies with doors or windows define the use of the buildings, which are apartments or residential buildings. The scale of the buildings also add in describing the structure's purpose. The residential buildings follow symmetrical and proportioned placement of windows and balconies. RL building is more modern in design. The signs also make it identifiable as a commercial building. The bright orange color and the written elements are unique characteristics of barangay halls, which make it easy for people to identify the building.
Next is the transport and mobility. Upon entering the street of the Los Reyes, a relatively spacious two-way street, approximately 9 meters wide, can be seen. However, numerous vehicles can be seen parked illegally on the side of the road, making it narrower since there are only two lot areas across the Los Reyes street that have a proper parking area. Thus, it is more prone to vehicular incidents and disruption of traffic flow not only on the street of the Los Reyes but also to connected streets, namely Padre Noval, Eloisa, Tolentino, Adelina, Padre Campa, Paquita, and P. Paredes Street. Based on the pictures from Google Maps, the physical condition of the road is normal. No cracks or damaged portions on the road can be seen. Here is the isometric view of the Los Reyes Street showing the 7 streets connected to it. The second diagram shows the approximate dimension of the road and the sidewalk, the road being 9 meters wide while the sidewalk is 2 meters wide. Next is the pedestrian access. The De Los Reyes Street is flanked by standard sidewalks on each side, approximately 2 meters wide. As seen in the photos, there is no visible pedestrian lane and some portions of the sidewalk were occupied illegally by placing tables and chairs as dining areas for the eateries. A motorcycle can also be seen parked right on top of the sidewalk. Numerous lighting fixtures were evenly spread out across the sidewalks, making the street itself well lit during nighttime. Also, the only street signage that can be seen are the street names. Road or traffic signage cannot be seen in any part of the Los Reyes Street. The third diagram shows the lot areas that have a parking area while the others have no parking area. The fourth diagram shows the road being a two-way street.
For greeneries and landscape, there are limited flora on both sides of the street. These include medium-height trees, shrubs, planting strips, and numerous potted plants. The taller trees are commonly found sporadically spaced in the sidewalks themselves, while the potted plants are situated in front of establishments. Landscaping is uniform with concrete pavements for the curbs, sidewalks, and roads. Shown are the current placement of greenery, indicated by green dots, and the flood map, with the west end being less prone to flooding compared to the rest of the street. Makeshift ramps are also present in select areas, typically near stores and establishments. Although they are raised by only a few inches, the rounded corners of the sidewalks do not slope down to accommodate PWDs. There are no public benches along the strip. Shade is also inconsistent as some parts have no canopies. In certain areas, a lot of obstructions such as carts, stands, bicycles, dining tables, and chairs occupy the extent of the sidewalk, causing up space. Pedestrians are then forced to resort to walking on the street itself. Oftentimes, there are parked vehicles on the sides, so they have to walk in the inner road, which increases safety hazards. There are also banderitas stringed across the street between buildings. So for the utility systems, overhead electricity lines and posts of different varieties and heights are stationed in every corner along the length of the two sides of the road. Shown in the diagrams are the current placements of streetlights and electrical posts scattered along the length of the street. The same goes for lamp posts and streetlights, which vary per establishment it precedes, along with generic ones for the entire strip. Sewage or storm drains are located on the sides of the road before the sidewalk, alternatively 1 or 2 per block, protected by trench grate. As seen in the diagram, 1 or 2 drains are present on each block. These are sometimes congested with trash, such as plastics or food packaging. Garbage disposal varies from large blue trash bins collected by maintenance and smaller ones provided by each establishment. However, a quantity of trash remains littered, usually where the street and the curbs meet.
For the SWOT analysis, the strength of the Delasar Street is that it's very popular for eating foods because of the many food stalls and food stalls during the Burman. It is close to the university and other dormitories, and that is very accessible. For the opportunities with the booming nightlife, this could be a big place for advertisement. The restaurant street can be improved with better street elevation and street lightings that would benefit the users and the establishments. For the strategies, with the business being successful, income could be used to provide more street lights, not just provided by the city government, but also by the private establishment. Street lights could be improved so that small stalls would be recognized and give a sense of comfort for them. Elevation shall be improved to provide comfort, access, and aesthetics to the user. For the weaknesses and threats, weaknesses that streetlights are few. The parking is unclear because of the many loading and unloading areas that are not legally placed and or not designated. Also, road signages, electrical posts, illegally parked motorcycles and tricycles, and privately owned furnitures are placed in the sidewalk, which prevents pedestrians to use it and instead walks on the street. Another is that part of the Delasar Street is that it is much more prone in flooding than other areas. For the threats, Delasar Street is a very crowded area during at night, which becomes prone to many crimes like pickpocketing and related crimes. Also, there are no clear security measures in the area. Since it's a busy street, air pollution is very prone to happen in that area, especially during during the rush hours. These lighting should be improved by adding more light posts, and proper parking areas or loading and unloading areas should be properly designated, and that no parking policies should be heavily imposed, and that barangay personnel or security personnel should be patrolling the area to give fast emergency response to users, and that it would provide some sense of comfort and security for all the users.
Now for the analysis of data and recommendations. First, we'll be looking at transport and mobility. So based on the data we gathered, the De Los Reyes Street is a spacious two-way street, but because there are illegally parked cars on the side of the roads, the street is prone to traffic flow that adverts to a domino effect on the perpendicular streets. Namely, Padre Noval, Eloisa streets, and other streets are affected by this. So how do we solve this problem? So strict implementation of no parking on the side of the road shall be observed and can be penalized if violated. Also, all establishments should not be allowed to extend or put any tables or objects that will serve an extension of their property. So the pedestrian access sidewalk should be clear of any privately owned furniture, objects, and vehicles that can obstruct the pathway of the pedestrian. Lastly, pedestrian lanes, traffic, and street signages must be placed accordingly. Next is the greeneries and landscape. So increasing plants and trees in the area improves the shade and ventilation throughout the whole street. Cutting down concrete landscape and replacing it by planting strip is possible. This also limits different establishments to not go beyond their property. Here are some trees that we can suggest. First is the tuwad trees and the banaba tree. So both are popular for urban planting because of their dry food resilient properties. Here is a plugin of the banaba trees wherein it offers an aesthetic appeal throughout the De Los Reyes Street. Next is the tuwad trees, which provide shade for the pedestrians of the De Los Reyes Street. Now, here is a comparison of the before and after of the greeneries. So as you can see, we incorporated more planting street for the De Los Reyes Street reimagined. Next is the sustainable roofing. So light-colored roofing saves 30% more expenses because of its resistance to sunlight and making the structure more cool. So economically speaking, light roofs are more beneficial than darker roofs. Next is the garbage disposal system. So we've noticed that there are only a few allotted spaces for garbage disposal. So proper garbage disposal shall be placed on each corner of the street for easier collection and less littering around the area. So having more trash bin can reduce the possibility of littering. So as for recommendations of random objects or clothes hanging outside the buildings, it affects the whole facade of the street. So it would be better if those things are hidden. So here are some pictures showing that. So if possible, exterior walls of the structures can be repaired or cleaned. Replacing rusted galvanized iron sheets would be optimal as well. So this is more on the maintenance part of the facade of the whole building. Thank you, that's all.
And that's it for the presentation. Thank you for listening.